Thank you very much. As Mr. Dashan told you, that I'm just simply going to read the concluding remarks of the conference. Stemming from our firm belief in the importance of democracy, the centrality of human rights, and the respect for civil liberties and political freedoms, representatives of movements, unions, and civil society organizations, as well as public and political figures, convened in the Democracy First in the Arab World virtual conference on December 3rd, 2021, followed by a press conference on December 7 at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., and made this declaration, which embodies the essence of the epistemological, moral, and political imperatives of the vast majority of populations in the Middle East and North Africa. The United States is convening a White House conference on December 9 and 10, 2021, for the purpose of promoting democracy worldwide. The fact that only one Arab state was invited affirms that the U.S. considers the remaining Arab regimes autocracies or dictatorships. In this statement, we reiterate our firm commitment to democratic principles in politics and governance, as well as to peaceful transition to democracy across the MENA region. We also denounce any attempt by autocratic regimes and non-democratic forces, regrettably oftentimes supported by international powers, to thwart the legitimate aspirations of our people for real democratic and representative governance. The phenomena of the Arab uprisings that swept the region in 2011 was regarded as the embodiment of the collective will for profound change across the region. But the forces of the old order, which largely monopolized the key instruments of power in society, including control of the military, police, security agencies, the judiciary, wealth, and flow of information, represented the major obstacles to a smooth democratic transition or any meaningful and durable reforms. As the dynamics of the conflict between the establishment of the old corrupt order and the nascent popular forces for democracy and reforms have played out, it became evident that major challenges facing the states and peoples, as well as political and social movements in the region, have emerged. How to deal with these challenges will ultimately determine the future prospects of the region, either in the direction of increasingly inclusive democratic societies and transparent political systems, or towards a more dysfunctional and repressive political order resulting in endemic conflict, chaos, divisions, displacements, and forced migrations that would eventually lead to non-functioning or failed states. Such contrasting outcomes would certainly have a profound and direct impact on the national security and economic interests, not only of the United States, but also the rest of the world. The people of the region confront difficult challenges in their quest for stability, peace, and harmony, including questions of political legitimacy, democratization, constitutional government, the rule of law, civil-military relations, independent judiciary, transparent and good governance, human rights, social justice, sustained economic development, equality, pluralism, minority rights, and national independence. Since the popular uprisings of the Arab Spring, most powerful and anti-democratic actors on the local, regional, and international levels have played a disruptive role in rolling back the people's pursuit toward freedom, democratic transition, rules-based society, social justice, and good governance. These disruptions have included military coups in Egypt and the Sudan, devastating wars in Syria, militia coup and aggressive war in Yemen, rising warlords, and chaos in Libya, a palace coup in Tunisia, and crackdowns on many democratic movements across the region, including the peaceful Hirak in Algeria, all of which facilitated an environment for destructive ideologies and the emergence of terrorist movements in Syria, Iraq, and elsewhere. In the midst of these setbacks, many Western governments that espouse democracy around the world have either aided and abetted those attempts to frustrate the people's march towards democracy in the region, or have kept silent. Therefore, any call to strengthen democracy across the world that does not address these reversals or acts genuinely to advance the cause of democracy across the MENA region rings hollow. It has been evidently clear that dictators, autocratic regimes, and warlords cannot advance their dark agenda for the region without the active or tacit support of Western governments and leaders. We, the representatives of numerous political parties and social movements in the MENA region, believe that there should be no inherent conflict or inevitable confrontation between the legitimate interests of democratic governments on one hand and our people's genuine aspirations, interests, and right to live in freedom and dignity on the other hand. We represent democratic and popular socio-political movements. Whatever grievances, misperceptions, or mistrust that might exist between our peoples and the West or those who represent democratic systems must be dealt with through dialogue, non-coercive negotiations, cooperation, mutual respect, and basically reciprocity. We call on all democratic governments participating in this conference to strongly and firmly declare their support for genuine democracy across the MENA region, grounded in the highest values and ideals recognized in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as well as based on the following principles. 1. Declaration of unequivocal condemnation and sanctions of any regimes or forces in the MENA region that disrupt or assist in disrupting democratic change or constitutional orders, support military coups or civil wars, or promote the overthrow of democratically elected governments. 2. Reassessment of any nation's relations with any regimes that violate or engage in serious abuses of human rights or engage in political oppression. 3. Calling for the immediate release of all political prisoners across the region without any delay, a moratorium on all unjust death sentences, and the end of all political trials and persecutions. 4, calling on the Human Rights Council of the United Nations and the General Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court to investigate and prosecute any and all regimes that engage in gross violations of human rights in the MENA region, as well as to publish their findings and recommendations. 5, declaring that freedom is a foundation of human dignity that must be granted to all people, as well as affirming the respect for civil liberties, political freedoms, and human rights to all people across the MENA region, regardless of religious affiliations, race, gender, class, or socioeconomic status. 6, support the promotion of the culture of democracy, including citizen equality and participation, pluralism, political tolerance, empowerment of women and the disenfranchised, and free and responsible media. 7, supporting the formation of a political system that is based on representative government, transparency, accountability, and good governance. 8, promoting and supporting the application of equal justice under the rule of law through the creation of an independent judiciary and Bill of Rights. 9, establishing a fair economic system based on social justice, human and ecological security, sustained development, decent education, social services, equal opportunity, and access to national resources for all citizens. 10, and final, acknowledging the problems of internal human displacement, the emergence of criminal syndicates, and human trafficking as a consequence of decades of political tyranny, injustice, and human rights violations in autocratic states. Thank you very much.